Hello, welcome to the Conjured Universe podcast. My name is Chris,
And my name is Nick.
and this is our first podcast. We're going to review a book series, chapter by chapter, week by week. We are going to start with the Harry Potter series. This is going to be the first book.
And our actual very first time reading it.
I've never read this book before, as Nick just said, and the only thing I have reference to is the movies. I'm excited to read it. We have read the first chapter. So without further ado, let's jump into it. We're going to do a quick review of the chapter and then discuss various different things.
Give you our thoughts on it, what we think we liked, what we didn't like. Maybe if something else happened that was different. We'll get through it.
Well, without any further interruptions, here we go. Um, First thing I'll say is I didn't like the first half of the chapter.
Yeah, it was just like the Dursleys, it was pretty boring. In fact, I think one of them actually wrote it.
Yeah, and that was just I didn't need 8 pages of who these people were and what they did for a living. It was basically a man who works a 9 to 5 and a stay at home mom, which nothing wrong with any of that, but they could have shortened that up into about 2 pages.
I guess they had to give a little bit of context as to how average they were. Um, but the first thing I noticed in this was they were normal, except for their secret that they didn't want anybody to know. The Potters. They're yeah. I'm not quite sure why they hated them so much. They didn't really mention a reason why, and it was Mrs. Dursley's sister, and they uh, they called Mister Potter good for nothing, and I'm not exactly
Yeah,
sure why.
I'm not sure if they're going to reference that later on in this particular book and get into that a little bit more, maybe in chapter 2 or further on. I kind of hope they do, so we kind of get a little bit more of an understanding of it. But I did like the chapter as it got more towards the back end of the chapter, and this could be biased because I saw I saw all the movies and I enjoyed all the movies,
Books are very different than the movies, though.
and
Little more context in books than the movies, I think.
I agree and I understand that, and that's why I'm kind of. It's like I didn't really like okay, so he's a drill salesman. I wish it was more of a pillow salesman. That way I have something to put my head on. But when I say he, I'm obviously talking about Mr. Dursley. Another thing that kind of caught my attention is they named their son
Dudley.
Dudley. So we have Dudley Dursley. And I'm going to be honest, I am kind of a slow reader. And when I saw that, I'm like, wait, did they just call their son
The
Dudley Dudley?
the first the only other time I know someone named Dudley was an old cartoon, Dudley Do Right.
No, Dudley Do Right. Yeah. We're dusting off the book cover for that. Wow.
Yeah, I think we're a little old for that.
Other than that,
Well, let's get into the book a little more. Let's dive a little deeper. When Mr. Dursley seems to be pretty uh
they touch
he
base
pays a
on
lot of
his.
he pays a lot of attention to things because in the very beginning, like he didn't notice the owl flying by or anything, but all of a sudden he starts noticing. He notices a cat. I mean, I was looking at a map, but I mean, cats can't look at maps. But he like notices a cat. He notices people in cloaks. Then he just starts noticing things. And for someone as boring and ordinary as him, why would he be noticing all of these things?
That's true. I kind of thought the same thing, but they did touch base on how he is at his job, and he seems like he pays attention to detail. Um,
I guess that's probably a fair assessment.
that's where I kind of went with it. I'm like, okay, well, he does pay attention to detail at his job, which, and I know I just said his job was boring and it's a 9 to 5, which, I think is fact right now. We can't deny that. But as if this was a story in the beginning of the chapter of just a regular human being that works a 9 to 5, well, they hit the nail on the head there. But in my mind, I'm like, this is a Harry Potter book.
Could
Let's
be a little more spice in this.
yeah, let's get to some Harry Potter related material here. I'm like, I don't want to. read about this boring guy who works a nine to
But I mean,
five.
I guess it gives a little context to what Harry's gonna be growing up into.
And that's what we touch base on later on in the chapter, where we start seeing where Harry Potter is going to live after. And this is all spoiler alert if no one has read the book yet. I know we're a little late to the show on this one, but um, I couldn't find my shoes, so that's why I'm late. Regardless, they had. I'm just going to kind of jump around a little bit. They had Hagrid show up on a gigantic motorcycle.
Which I didn't understand that part. Okay, so he flies out of the sky. He is twice as tall as a normal man and 5 times as wide. But he got the motorcycle from someone else. How is someone that large riding someone else's motorcycle unless they too are a giant? He said young Sirius Black, so you would assume that would be a child, even a child of a giant. How is a giant that size riding a motorcycle?
That's a really good question. I didn't actually think that far into it, but I was thinking more of this type of wizardry type of, I guess I'll just say equipment, like a motorcycle. Really, like you just go to the Harley Davidson store and
Give me that magic one right
yeah, give me
there.
that magic one right over there.
Can you,
Yeah, I
sir?
like that.
Could you point me to your flying motorcycle?
I was thinking something more along the lines of 12 tiny reindeer in a sled. That would be more
That
fitting
would be a little
for,
more believable.
I mean, for this type of, you know,
But I guess it's in the real world. They can't really show 12 tiny reindeer driving a sleigh.
dragging a sled around through the sky. I mean, that would be, I would get excited if I saw that.
Another question I had about that was so Hagrid shows up. Well, actually, Dumbledore and McGonagall show up first, who was a cat, and uh, it said Albus was not welcomed on their street. I'm not quite sure why. Is there something about him that was off that he's not allowed or not liked? But they said I can't remember the exact quote, but it's something like he just nothing about him was welcomed on the street.
Yeah, I was kind of interested in that a little bit as well. To be honest, I mostly overlooked that because, I
There's more
mean,
happening.
yeah, I mean, we know how it is when you got, that one person or a neighbor or what have you. That's, it's like, well,
Yeah,
why
that
are
just
they
doesn't
walking
belong.
down here?
Yeah, I guess that's true. There's
Like they shouldn't be over here. We're the norms and they're not. Those people are messed up.
I
They
get
shouldn't
you.
be over here.
Yeah, make that's a good point. He probably just wasn't didn't seem the type. Um, but yeah, they're talking about the Potters. Something's up, and they're talking about that the Potters are dead, and Harry's the only one who lived. There's no there's no indication of why Voldemort, or as they say, who shall not be named. There's no indication of why he would go after the Potters. Was it just random? Was there a reason for it? There's really no information right now.
I like the story of it. It fulfills prophecy. I feel like it's a nice prophecy story. Like he's going to be the closure of the prophecy, and that's just who he is and how it's going to be. I mean, knowing a little bit more about the story as we go further along, I'm excited to see to read these books and get all those details that were left out of all these movies. But there's a lot of filler information that I think we could have put in a little bit more significant information that would have been a little bit better off. I wish we would have had more of.
Yeah, but you're kind of building on
Yeah,
what's
and that's
there.
that's kind of what I felt towards the end of the chapter. I'm like, okay, cool. Now we have to take Harry Potter, who survived the Voldemort attack, and eject him into this seemingly ordinary family that wanted nothing to do with their nephew and their nephew's family. I mean, it's pretty interesting. I hope they touch on base on that more later on in the book or even the series.
If the Dursleys and the Potters were closer together, I'm not quite sure how that would have affected it all, but it would have been nice if they would have been closer and closer of a family. Um,
Like, how would that affect the story? We want to hear in comments or um, concerns, things like that. Let us know how you guys would feel, how that would affect this story. I don't know if that question has ever been asked before. Um, but that would be an interesting way to turn the story. Would that force Voldemort to just kill everybody, and
and
then
I assume that he killed them somewhere else. Um, was it on, you know, somewhere that they would this have been somewhere where he wouldn't want to go, or any number of things could have been different if they were closer together. Um, yeah, I don't know. It's a good thought.
that is a good thought. That could switch the entire outcome of this entire story. And what if they chose not to use owls? What if they used pigeons?
You'd be scrubbing for a couple of days after they left.
That's true. Yeah, these were daylight owls too. That's different.
Yeah, there was a lot of different things going on. They were talking about like people in cloaks, people, cats reading maps, and owls flying everywhere.
I mean, it's cool stuff for sure. This is information that's new, and I'm excited. I'm excited to get into chapter 2 and start that chapter and do essentially the same thing we're doing now, is just having a talk about it, see how things may have played out differently. If there's things that played out, if there's details or other things that could have played out differently, what if the Durleys were not well off? What if they were dirt poor? They couldn't take on
Yeah,
Harry
they
Potter. What if they took Harry Potter and gave him up for adoption to somebody else?
yeah, that'd be a little awkward then for Harry. But
Dumbledore would.
I think
I
Dumbledore
mean,
knew what he
he,
was
he
doing.
knew what he was doing for sure. Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely, it was a solid
he
plan.
he seems like he's a pretty smart guy, making the right choice. Although I don't understand why he wouldn't give him to a different family than one that doesn't really get along with his
Yeah,
parents.
that's maybe it's to build his character, give him a humble beginning.
Yeah, I guess that would affect his character a lot later on. Whereas I guess if he was growing up with people that I guess more idolized him or talked him up as like you were this really special
He
person,
would have that rock
he would have
star
that, yeah, he would have that kind of
type of
that,
attitude. I'm better than you.
yeah, and it
Kind
might
of like we're not supposed to know any of the characters later on, but kind of like Malfoy.
Malfoy.
Malfoy,
Yeah.
Malfoy.
I mean, you were almost there. You had it.
Yeah, I had it. I was
I
right
knew what you're
there.
talking
Yeah,
about.
that was right
Yeah.
at the.
So
You know what I
like
mean. You
more
guys know
humble
what I mean.
beginnings. I mean, they seemed like they were pretty well off, but still, they were normal, boring people with a 9 to 5 job, as you were saying, and it seemed like it would help him for his character building as him as a person. Just be that more stable, more humble person.
I think that was the thought behind it, but there are so many different things that could play out that would make Dumbledore have a different decision. They talked about something I just thought of right now. They talked about Hagrid kind of being a little bit irresponsible. Oh, what if he ran over a banana peel on this motorcycle
I don't
and
know,
wiped
maybe.
out?
Yeah.
He's twice as tall as a normal man and 5 times as wide. He would have crushed him like a bug. Voldemort would have been like, "Huh,
Thanks.
all right."
Well, it actually said Voldemort disappeared. They didn't actually say anything what happened to him. That he just disappeared.
That's why I'm excited to get more into this franchise and continue.
Yeah, it'll be exciting. We'll pick up chapter 2 next week. Um, Come give us a listen. Let us know your thoughts, and we're
Yeah,
excited to keep going.
absolutely. We want to know thoughts, concerns. We want to hear from the haters. We want to hear from everybody. So don't hold back. Let us know your thoughts, comments, concerns, etc., etc. And we will be back next week with chapter 2, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone.
Thanks a lot, guys.